morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for being here to celebrate this historic moment with the Governor's Proclamation of Security's 90th anniversary. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Noel Bonham. I'm AARP State Director for Maine, and I'm so grateful that you are all here. This is quite the turnout for a Maine summer morning, and for all of you to be here. So thank you so much. This anniversary is particularly important for all of us because it comes with the recognition of the common good that the Social Security program has offered for millions of Americans for the past 90 years and for millions here in Maine over the past 90 years as well. Social Security helps older Americans stay out of poverty and live with dignity after a lifetime of hard work. The Social Security Act has provided a foundation of financial stability for retirees and individuals with disabilities, as well as surviving spouses, families for 9 decades. Social Security has stood the test of time, offering dignity, independence, security, and peace of mind for generations. Today, more than 1 in 4 Mainers, that's about 369,000 Mainers, rely on Social Security to help meet their essential needs, such as housing, food, utilities, electricity, heating homes, and healthcare, and more. The program also plays a significant role in Maine's economy, generating nearly $7.2 billion annually in economic activity. Social Security beneficiaries spend their steady income on essentials, fueling local businesses, supporting jobs, and generating tax revenue through a powerful ripple effect. As we celebrate 90 years of the program, we encourage all Mainers to reflect on the importance of Social Security and support the ongoing efforts to ensure its continued strength and sustainability for future generations to come. It is now my pleasure to welcome to the podium AARP's Volunteer State President, Andre Chasse, who will introduce our next speakers and then our governor. Andre?
Thank you, Noel. Social Security at 90 is a lifeline, and we have a responsibility to strengthen it, particularly given the current challenges it faces. As Noel mentioned, more than 1 in 4 Mainers, nearly 370,000 individuals, receive Social Security each month. For 24 million people across the country, Social Security provides the majority of their income every month. In Maine, over 161,000 individuals rely on Social Security for at least 50% of their income, and almost 68,000 Mainers rely on Social Security for at least 90% of their income. Let me repeat that. 68,000 Mainers rely on Social Security for 90% of their income. So many of us here today and across the state have paid into the program for our entire working lives. It is essential that all of us receive the Social Security we have earned. Now it's my pleasure to introduce 2 AARP Maine volunteers with personal Social Security stories to share. We will first hear from Debbie Alford from Falmouth, and then Jessica Simpson from Cape Elizabeth. Deb?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Deb Alford, and I actually live in Cumberland, but that's close enough, Andre. I know, you're from, Brewer, so you don't know Cumberland. I was born and raised, though, in Gary, Indiana. Please don't break out into song. And my father was a steel worker, and he was the victim of a vehicular homicide when I was 12. And so he was 1 week shy of his 53rd birthday. It was on my mother's birthday that he was killed, and it was 3 days before Christmas. Not a good year, 1967. My mother started drawing his Social Security benefits for surviving widow and child. I did have a brother, but he was a good bit older than I was, and he was on his own, so it's just the 2 of us. And Social Security is what made the difference between my mother being able to work one job and support the family versus working 2 or 3 jobs to support the family. So that was great for us. When I got to be college age, I started drawing my own check, and it was the only thing that allowed me to go to college and finish. So between summer jobs, on-campus jobs, scholarships, and my Social Security benefit, I was able to finish college in 3.5 years. So it was a great thing for me. And I then started working for the phone company. Back then I could say that, kind of can't say that anymore. But my peers at the time would say, why are they taking this 7.5% check out of my, I want my money. I'll never see it when I retire. And I would say, you know, I've already seen it. And it's a great benefit for so many people. I am happy to pay my share to let other people have that opportunity. Understand that this was in 1977 by this time, and that was just before President Reagan signed the Social Security Amendment Act, or Social Security Act amendments, I should say, to shore up Social Security finances. And so, you know, it was really good that all of that happened. And I truly felt that I had been privileged to be able to draw that. I'm retired now, as you can tell, and I draw my own earned Social Security benefit, and it does help pay the bills, like Andre and Noel have said, and so it's been really good for me. However, much like the 1970s, we are now back at a time where Social Security is again facing financial challenges. And we really, really, really all need to figure out how to work together to make Social Security strong for the future, because it's not just a safety net, it can be life-changing. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. And happy 90th birthday to Social Security. I'm Jessica Lindsay Simpson, residing in Cape Elizabeth, and for 35 of those 90 years, I worked for the Social Security Administration. At my job, the agency's philosophy when I was trained was to do all you could to help your claimants receive every dollar that they were due. And on this 90th birthday, there's much to celebrate about the government's largest program, and let's start with how it lifts people out of poverty. In 2023, Social Security payments moved nearly 22 million people who were out of poverty. This included over 16 million adults aged 65 and over, and almost 1 million children. Without those payments, the poverty rate among older adults would be 37.3%. With Social Security, it's 10.1%. Social Security is a guaranteed income, and it's inflation protected, or adjusted, I should say. Many private pensions are not. It's also a social insurance program, meaning when someone dies or becomes disabled at a young age, the computation of the payment compensates and not penalizes for those life-altering circumstances. I'll never forget a young mother when she was told the amount of her monthly Social Security survivor benefits. She burst into tears. She said, "Now I could stay in my home. I thought I was going to lose my home." I won't forget the myriads of people who learned their claim for disability was approved. They had such a sense of relief knowing they will once again have a monthly income. However, through the decades, I witnessed from those across my desk the changes our society had brought on workers and their families. They told me about the increasingly fragile nature of their economic state. Pensions were replaced by 401ks. Their employer-based health care coverage changed and often came with higher deductibles, co-pays, premiums, and lesser coverage. Upon losing their job or becoming unable to work, they lost their health insurance until they were eligible for Medicare. And now the Social Security Administration is staffed at the lowest levels in 50 years. It has, for many, become a DIY affair. And we are in the midst of a silver tsunami, with 11,200 baby boomers turning 65 every day this year and continuing through 2027. But please remember this: Social Security is there for virtually everyone. Anyone you see on the street, at the barber shop or the hair salon, at church, at the supermarket, at a family reunion, young, old, native-born or immigrant, single or married. Social Security is the bedrock of a future with certainty when you retire, become disabled, or if a loved one dies. And Congress must act to preserve, protect, and defend this vital program so it continues to pay every penny you earned for the decades to come. And I thank you.
Thank you, Deb and Jessica, for sharing your personal stories with us. Your voices are an integral part of the impact of Social Security. Now, it is my honor to welcome Governor Janet Mills. In representing over 200,000 AARP members in the state of Maine, AARP has been honored to work with Governor Mills as a champion for older Mainers, particularly those who are vulnerable and struggle to make ends meet. We applaud the Governor for her work in support of family caregivers, for recognizing the need for Maine workers to achieve financial security and resiliency with the establishment of the Merit Retirement Savings Program, and for her continued efforts to protect Mainers, and especially older Mainers, from fraud and scams. Today, we are grateful to Governor Mills for taking the opportunity to acknowledge the milestone of 90 years of Social Security, which continues to impact hundreds of thousands of Mainers' lives every day. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Governor Mills.
Thank you. Is it on now? I think it went off. Oh well. Huh? Use your outside voice. My outside voice, here it comes. Thank you, Andre and Noelle, and ladies, Deb and Jessica. Great stories and indicative of the widespread benefit that Social Security brings to Maine people and to people across this country. Look, it's an honor to be with you, with AARP today, to celebrate the 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act, which, as you know, is landmark legislation that was made possible by a woman who had very strong ties to the state of Maine. You know, Frances Perkins wasn't sure that President Roosevelt should appoint her as Secretary of Labor originally. She was the former Industrial Commissioner of New York State and had witnessed the tragic deaths of women and girls in the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. Horrible, horrible tragedy. She saw that with her own eyes, as you know. And she warned her friend, Franklin Roosevelt, that if she took the job, there were things that she'd want to do for working people nationwide. FDR seemed a bit startled as she described the need to create unemployment insurance and health insurance and old age insurance, as they called it. But the specter of the Great Depression, the desperate mothers and fathers evicted from their homes, weeping on sidewalks with hungry children holding their hands. All of that painted such a terrible picture of people who did not have a safety net to catch them if they fell on hard times. So FDR asked Frances Perkins, "Well, do you think you can do it?" And she said she didn't know, but she wanted to try, and the beginning of the long road to Social Security thus began. The Social Security Act was based on a simple premise. Workers who paid into the program would receive their wages back in the form of retirement benefits, defined benefits. Congress has amended the Social Security Act time and again to honor that promise, including the bipartisan Social Security Fairness Act, most recently. For years, I've been proud to stand by your side in calling for Congress to repeal the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset provision. Those laws that prevented public service employees, like many in this building, from receiving their full Social Security benefits, those laws were wrong, and Congress has decided to make things right. For decades, bipartisan members of Maine's congressional delegation have pushed strongly to get this legislation across the finish line, to repeal those measures. And finally, on July 5th of this year, President Biden signed it into law, restoring full benefits to about 25,000 public service workers in the state of Maine and their survivors. That includes Senator Angus King and Senator Susan Collins, who were vital members of the support team behind that bill, the Social Security Fairness Act. One retired state employee named Penny estimated that she and her husband, a firefighter, were losing about $1,200 a month in earned Social Security benefits before the Social Security Fairness Act passed. That wasn't fair, and I'm glad that situation has been fixed. Thank you to Senator King, Senator Collins, the Maine delegation, for getting it done. Social Security is not some socialist program. It's not welfare. It's not charity. It is an earned benefit, vital to so many families in Maine. And there are many other people who are like Penny, who rely on Social Security for a good part of their financial stability. Maine, as you know, is the oldest and most rural state in the nation. As was said before, nearly 370,000 people in our state collect some kind of Social Security benefits. That includes older people, people with disabilities, and families who are navigating the loss of a loved one, as I did when my husband passed away nearly 11 years ago. Many of these people are in rural communities. More than 40% of households, more than 40% of all households in Aroostook, Washington, and Piscataquis counties, and more than a third of households in Androscoggin County have someone in the household receiving Social Security benefits. Think about that. Vital to paying the bills of those households. The financial stability of many people in Maine depends on Social Security, but the current administration in Washington, D.C. has created deep uncertainty about its future. For months, Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, so-called, or DOGE, done, was given free rein over sensitive government agencies, including Social Security. They threatened to slash Social Security staff by the thousands. They threatened to reduce services available over the phone. They threatened to close field offices that serve our rural areas. Adding to that chaos and that uncertainty, there have been 5 different people who headed up the Social Security Administration just in the last 9.5 months. 5 different heads of Social Security, including some people who recklessly rolled out and then rolled back the administrative changes that left everybody confused and waiting for help. You remember when Mr. Dudek threatened to undo Maine's enumeration at birth program and our program that allowed the filing of death certificates by funeral homes? Common sense, anti-fraud measures. And then he claimed it was a mistake, and then he claimed other things. Who knows? But if you can mess with Social Security in such a frivolous, nonsensical manner, with those vital parts of the program, what else did he want to mess with? What else do those other administrators and the current administrator, what else do they want to do for whatever purpose? Maine people who might get very frustrated from waiting for answers on the phone might choose to drive for hours to a Social Security office. Remember when they threatened to close the Presque Isle office? They might want to choose to drive to an office in person, driving hours, only to wind up waiting in line for hours there in person anyway. One claims representative recently said that the wait time in her office in Auburn has gone from 16 minutes to an hour and a half. Imagine driving some hours to get to a Social Security office and then having to wait for an hour and a half to get an answer to what might be a simple problem, simple question. I say the older people should not be afraid of losing their Social Security benefits, and they should not be in the dark about changes. They also shouldn't have to worry about their Medicare benefits. But here's the deal. That reconciliation bill recently passed by Congress, some members of Congress, and signed into law by President Trump, creates a huge long-term deficit in the federal budget that may well, by prior law, require cuts across the board in the federal budget, including Medicare, unless Congress acts to prevent that. It's a completely unnecessary scare that people relying on Medicare should not have to face. Maine people have earned these benefits, and the federal government should stand by its commitment to those benefits and to those programs and to those people in Maine and across the country. On October 23rd, 1962, Frances Perkins then retired, first woman member of the United States Cabinet, any cabinet. She then reflected on the roots of the Social Security Act at the administration's headquarters in Baltimore. One thing I know, she said, Social Security, quote, is so firmly embedded in the American psychology today that no politician, no political party, no political group could possibly destroy this act and still maintain our democratic system. It is safe forever and for the everlasting benefit of the people of the United States, end quote. Those are Frances Perkins' words many years ago. Let's hope they stand true. Let's commit to keeping her words, to keeping her promise, and keeping FDR's promise and the Congress's promise to the people of the United States. And so today, I am proud to sign a proclamation commemorating the 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act in our country. I won't read it to you, but I just basically did. But as we reflect on this important anniversary, I urge the administration in Washington to restore stability and reliability, dependability to the Social Security Administration, and to recommit to the promise of the Social Security Act for the everlasting benefit of all Americans. Thank you. Now, since he's a former governor, he's signed many proclamations. I'll let him speak first, and then we can witness the signing of this proclamation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Mills, for your support and leadership throughout this and everything else that you're doing for us. Well deserved, I might add. My name is Carl Buccentini. I serve as AARP Maine's Volunteer Congressional Liaison. Today's event is part of a nationwide effort to engage AARP members, elected officials, and communities in conversations about the role Social Security has played and needs to continue to play in helping secure the financial security of Americans of all ages. And it's really nice to look out here and see the silver hairs, but along with the way less than silver hairs. Ones for whom Social Security will be critical as they age. I'm so happy that our next three speakers were able to carve out some time out of their busy schedules to join us as we recognize not only the legacy of Social Security, as Governor Mills so eloquently stated, but also in calling attention to the importance of strengthening and protecting Social Security for the generations to come. So first, we are honored to be joined by Senator Angus King. Senator King has served as Maine's junior senator. I thought I'd put that in there for you, because you'll get a chuckle. Since January 2013. Following Senator King will be Kathy Finnemore, who serves in Susan Collins' office just down the road here in Augusta. And lastly will be Scott Dresser, who is Congressman Jared Golden's representative of Oxford, Franklin, Androscoggin, and Kennebec counties. No small feat there. We thank you all for joining us. This is a big deal. Senator King, please. Thank you.
Welcome to the room with the worst acoustics in the state of Maine. I have to tell you a funny story. As I was leaving this morning, my staff in Washington, they look after you and take care of you. Sometimes they lack confidence that you can do things. I was driving up. They actually sent me the physical address of the State House to put into GPS. My damn picture is upstairs. I worked here for 8 years. They're going to hear about that. In fact, I'm sure they already have. Look, Teague says I didn't have anything to do with that. I think it's important to reflect that something as important and visionary as Social Security doesn't happen by accident. It took a lifetime of dedication and passion by Francis Perkins to bring the idea to a place where it could be turned into policy. But if it would not have been for the imagination and courage of Franklin D. Roosevelt, it wouldn't have happened. It just would have been an idea out there that people were talking about, well, they do this in Europe and they do this in other places. It took the combination of Francis Perkins and Franklin D. Roosevelt to make this big idea happen. And the governor read the quote from Francis Perkins about how Social Security is so embedded in the American culture and politics and way of life that it's safe forever. She never met Elon Musk. And here's what concerns me, is that this so-called streamlining of government was undertaken in a completely irrational, unplanned, thoughtless way by people who literally didn't know what they were doing. They were canceling programs they didn't understand. They were canceling jobs they didn't understand. Here's an example. The first thing they did was fire all probationary employees in the federal government. Why did they do that? Because under federal civil service laws, you can fire probationary employees and not be subject to the protections of civil service. Here's one of the problems. Number one, it's irrational. In other words, there is no effort to think, here's a really good probationary employee, here's one that's in a job that isn't all that necessary. It was across the board. And in the federal government, as Jessica knows, if you get promoted, you're on probation again. So somebody could have been fired as a probationary employee who had worked for the agency for 10 or 15 years because they'd recently been promoted. It was a classic example of what I always refer to as ready, fire, aim. And the damage has been and will be significant. And they always say, we're not going to touch benefits. If a Social Security recipient or potential recipient can't get somebody to answer the phone to deal with their claim, that's a cut in benefits. And the same thing, by the way, is happening with the Veterans Administration, with Health and Human Services, with NIH. I mean, the damage is really significant, and it's going to go on for some period of time. And I do want to say just a moment about something about public service. Somehow, in this atmosphere, public servants are being dissed, as they say, disrespected. People who dedicate their lives to serving their fellow citizens are looked down upon as somehow being suckers, as, you know, you're not maximizing your income. Well, public service is something, and the service of our neighbors is something that's deeply ingrained in all of us. And it's certainly at the heart of many of our religious principles. Do unto others isn't a political slogan. It's a deeply moral and ethical slogan. And the people who choose to dedicate their lives to serving other people are anything but subjects of disrespect. They should be respected and thanked every day, whether that's a teacher, a firefighter, a person that answers the phone at the Social Security Administration, a person that's manning the desk at a Social Security field office. So it really bothers me what's going on now, to the disrespect that's being paid to the people who have dedicated their lives to serving all the rest of us. I think the other thing I have to talk about is the future. And, well, before that, though, the Fairness Act. The governor mentioned a delegation, and indeed Susan and I and our congressional delegation worked very hard on this bill for years. I think it was one of the first things I co-sponsored, 13 years ago, and Susan's been working on it. But you should know, here's a little inside story, the real champion of that change, who I believe if he hadn't taken the bit in his teeth that made that happen, was a guy named Sherrod Brown. Sherrod Brown was a senator from Ohio who's the most passionate advocate for working people and just ordinary citizens of anybody I've ever met. And he's the one I was in closed meetings about, what's our agenda, what are we going to try to do? He was the one that drove that bill. And he was a wonderful senator, but I think the tremendous benefit that's been to people here in Maine should know that their champion was this guy with a gravelly voice from Ohio, and made a real difference in people's lives. Let me talk a little bit about the future. As you know, the Social Security Trust Fund becomes insolvent around 2033. That's 8 years from now. This happened before, and the reason it happened is simple arithmetic. When Social Security was first passed, there were like 5.5 or 6 workers for every recipient. So they were all paying in, and the beneficiaries were getting their benefits. Today, that ratio is about 2.5 workers for every recipient, and you can understand why that creates a mathematical problem. So this is the second time this has happened. It happened in the 1980s, as Jessica mentioned, and Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, a very odd couple, came together with a solution, I believe it was 1986, that was designed to keep the system solvent for 50 years. And indeed, it has. Now we're at the same place. I cannot tell you what the solution is. I can tell you the good news is I don't think we're going to let it fail. Everybody understands the problem. Everybody understands the importance of the program. So the question is not, are we going to solve the problem? The question is how it's going to happen and how soon it's going to happen. The 1986 solution occurred something like 6 months before insolvency. It's sort of like, who among us did our book report before Sunday night? And I hope that we don't creep up to that 2033 deadline unnecessarily. I can tell you there are a lot of discussions going on in various corners of the Senate, and I suspect the House, about how to approach this. There's going to be a lot of input from AARP and from communities across the country, and I'm convinced that we will find an equitable and sustainable solution. I can't tell you what it's going to be now because it hasn't yet emerged, but as I said, there are lots of discussions going on, and people are taking this very seriously. Why are they taking it seriously? Because it's important. We've heard all of the statistics that are so compelling about the role that Social Security plays in so many lives in this country. It makes a difference every single day. And it makes a difference sometimes between food on the table and heat and the ability to sustain yourself in your home. And so we are committed, everyone in this room is committed to this program because of the important role that it plays in the life of this country. I'm just proud that I have an opportunity to work with all of you to see that this commitment that was made 90 years ago is renewed and reinvigorated and serves the needs of our children and our grandchildren for the future of this country. I want to end by thanking AARP for their advocacy, thanking Noel, thanking Andre for keeping after me. I think I'm on his speed dial, and I want to thank all of you. The way we change the world is through engagement. And the fact that you're here this morning is a step in that direction. Stay with us. We're going to work. We all collectively are going to work, and we're going to live up to the promise of Francis Perkins and Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be with you.
Good morning. I'm Kathy Finnemore. I'm with Senator Collins' office here in Augusta. Thank you, Governor Mills. I don't have a great big voice. I'll do the best I can. I'm Kathy Finnemore. I'm from Senator Collins' office here in Augusta. This is Senator Collins' statement commemorating the 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act. For 90 years, Social Security has remained one of the most effective life-saving programs in our nation's history, providing a vital safety net for retirees, people with disabilities, surviving spouses, and children so that they can live with dignity after a lifetime of work or face of severe hardship. Earlier this year, that legacy was strengthened with the signing of the Social Security Fairness Act, a bipartisan bill Senator Collins authored to repeal the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. Two provisions of the Social Security Act that had unfairly withheld earned benefits from teachers, firefighters, police officers, and other public servants and their spouses. This reform was a victory decades in the making. It ensures that Social Security's original goal of providing retiring teachers and their families with the financial security they've earned after years of contribution to the system is fully realized for those who have devoted their careers to serving others. Since then, and following Senator Collins' urging, the Social Security Administration has fully implemented the law, adjusting benefits for 2.8 million Americans. This includes more than 25,000 Mainers who have seen their benefits increase. Additionally, those beneficiaries in Maine have been issued more than $184.5 million in retroactive payments. As we commemorate the 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act and the critical role it has played in the lives of millions of Americans, we remain steadfast in our commitment to ensuring that this program continues to meet the needs of Americans and now in the decades to come. Thank you. Senator Susan Collins.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, I'll just use my outside voice. Good morning, everybody. I am Scott Dresser, Congressman Golden's district representative for Kennebec County and for Western Maine. I'm really honored to be here today to celebrate this landmark 90th anniversary. Jared, of course, really wanted to be here today, but his schedule brought him elsewhere in the district. And so he asked me to share these words. I will give the caveat that as somebody in the end of the proceedings here today, I apologize for any repetition, but it's only because these things are so important. On August 14th, 1935, Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the Social Security Act into law, enshrining one of the most important programs in American history. From the beginning, Social Security has ensured that Americans can live with dignity in retirement, through disability, or after the loss of a loved one. Social Security has been a cornerstone of economic security in this country for nearly a century now. I've always said that our social insurance programs, chief among them Social Security, they're not just programs. They're promises. Promises that we must keep. That's why since the day I joined Congress, I've been working to strengthen the program. I began work on passing the Social Security Fairness Act in my very first term, and last year, we finally were able to secure the large bipartisan majorities, and President Biden signed the bill into law. As we've discussed, the bill repealed the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset, two unfair policies that reduced benefits for public employees, as we've said, including teachers, firefighters, and police officers, people who spent decades serving our communities right here in Maine and were unfairly losing benefits. More than 25,000 Mainers did receive those benefits back and now are getting their fair share going forward. But today, in the future, more than 360,000 Mainers will continue to rely on Social Security. It's not just retirees. It's families with children. It's people with disabilities. It's widows and it's widowers. The truth is, today, the Social Security Administration itself is under strain. Staffing cuts and office reorganizations have left people facing long wait times and delays, sometimes in moments of real crisis. Resources once devoted to answering calls for local claims are being diverted to a national hotline, leaving callers and SSA staff overwhelmed, confused, and frustrated. I find this situation unacceptable. Whether it's a grandmother raising her grandchildren after losing a child to opioids, or a young adult living with disability, every person deserves timely service and the benefits they have earned. As Senator King said, a cut in the service delivery is the same as a cut to the benefits. I'm committed to making sure Social Security is properly staffed and funded for Mainers and for all Americans. Reducing our out-of-control federal debt and deficits is one of the first and most important steps towards ensuring that we keep our word on Social Security. Today, fiscal instability threatens even the most basic responsibilities of government, including Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. Unless my colleagues in Congress join me and take action, the future of Social Security is uncertain at best. I've also called on Congress to eliminate the cap on Social Security contributions, making the very wealthy pay their fair share, just like the middle class. These two policies together, reducing debts and deficits while strengthening the trust fund through tax fairness, would go a long way towards making sure we can keep our promise to Americans. And so as we mark the 90th anniversary of this program, let's all come together again as state, local, or federal representatives, as activists, and as Mainers, to once again pledge to make those hard choices that will secure this crucial program well through its next century. Thank you to AARP, and thank you all for being here. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. So for the members of press that are here, if you have any questions, we've asked Senator King to, take a few questions. Okay, yes, that's true. Yes, we'll do that.
Senator King, Senator Doosan, would you come forward too, please? Now, who's got a pen? I have.
Who has a
This
pen?
one. I have one.
Who has a pen?
I got one. I got a simple. Yeah, we're the AARP pens. Ink will never run out. I am proud today to sign the proclamation marking the 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act, which was signed into law in 1935, establishing one of the most enduring institutions in American history. And I won't read the whole thing to you. But I encourage all citizens to reflect on the importance of this day and of this act, and to support efforts to ensure that Social Security remains strong and sustainable for generations to come. You're here. Thank you.
If you're in the middle, that's okay with you guys? All right, so.
Get you in the middle.
All right.
Talk among yourselves.
I'm going to invite Bridget to join me here, please.
Yes.
Because she's been so instrumental in planning this.
Very good. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you.
And one last picture, Andre and Carl, please come on up.
Yeah. And Jessica.
Yeah, Jessica and Deb, please come on over.
Let's just make a party.
I'm the only one who's blue. What's wrong with that? I forgot my red shirt.
Let's slide.
Here, Jess, come on over here.
You can be with the proclamation.
Left my red shirt at home.
We'll get you one.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Noah. Good to see you. Take my things here. Somebody's phone is here, too.
That's fine.
That's yours, okay.
All right.